I want to bring in another voice into the conversation, Amir Avivi, IDF Reserve Brigadier General, Director of Israel's Defense and Security Forum, and former Deputy Commander of the Gaza Strip Division of the IDF. Thank you very much for joining us this evening for unfortunate circumstances. I want to get your take on this terror attack just happening right now in Tel Aviv.
Well, I think it was obvious that the moment the events in Lebanon and in Gaza ceased, that we'll see again most of the events concentrated inside Israel and in the West Bank. And it's obvious that the terror organizations are continuing to operate now, focusing on events inside Israel. The incitement is very, very high, still around Al-Aqsa, still around the events there. And unfortunately, the incitement is also within parts of the Israeli Arab society. And we see once again an Israeli Arab that is involved in terror. His connection to specific terror organization is not clear. It's something that will have to be investigated by the Shabak. But we have to be in alert. And I think that the main lesson that I have for the Prime Minister and the Minister of Interior Security is that we need a very strong and big National Guard. We know that they are bringing in now more companies of the Border Patrol, but it's not enough. If you really, really want to secure the cities and towns, we need much more manpower. This manpower at the moment is lacking, and it's not enough.
And we are seeing live images of Tel Aviv's police chief, Amir Eshed, right there. Avi Eshed, pardon, right there on your screens at the scene of where the attack took place. Amir, you just mentioned that this terror attack, in your eyes, shows us that we need a National Guard to tackle terrorism. That would be Itamar Ben-Gvir responsible for that National Guard. Don't you think that those forces, instead of creating a new National Guard, shouldn't those forces and that money go into advancing the police department?
Yes, I agree. When I say National Guard, I don't mean building a whole new organization. I'm talking about what was approved already by the previous government, and we in IDSF, by the way, helped recruiting people, is building this capability under the police and the Border Patrol. And I think this is what is needed. It's not realistic in any way to think about building a whole new organization, a part of the army and the police. We do need this in the police. We need to strengthen the police. And there is a lot of potential because today, you know, that the army shrink pretty much the reserve units. We have more than 100,000 very young reservists who are not doing active duty, which we can utilize for strengthening the Border Patrol with volunteers and reservists, and this is what we need. And this decision needs to be taken fast, as soon as possible, and it's not very complicated to build this force and fast.
Amir, tonight's terror attack is the second just today. 3 Israelis killed in just one day, following 24 hours of intense violence that saw a barrage of rockets fired at Israel from Lebanon and the Gaza border. We also saw, as we mentioned, a terror attack in the West Bank. We saw clashes in Jerusalem's Old City on the Temple Mount earlier this week. I want to ask you, in your opinion, what's the next step? What should the government do next?
I think that not only the government, I would say in general, politicians need to understand that it's time, to talk, to unite, to get together the Israeli society. We have seen terrible scenes in the last 2 months. We've seen division. This has hurt dramatically Israel, especially in the eyes of our enemies. Our resiliency has been hurt, and the politicians have a responsibility. They have a responsibility to calm things down, to get together, to get the society closer together. And this is what I expect from them. And of course, talking about the government, they need to build our deterrence back. It needs to be done in Lebanon, in Gaza, and other places. It not necessarily means that we need to go to a major operation or war, but we definitely need to deal with some of the leaders that are pushing for these attacks against Israel.
And as we mentioned, Netanyahu has been briefed on the situation, has called up all reservists of the border police units to show up for duty. But this whole entire 24 hours of violence follows a massive political crisis right here in Israel, with many IDF reservists saying they will not show up for military duty in protest of the government's judicial overhaul plan. Do you expect these reservists to show up now in this time of need?
The Israeli Defense Forces, including the Air Force, are in 100% readiness. Everyone showed up. I don't know any single pilot that didn't show up. And this is important to understand. My organization, fought hardly this tendency to say that they are not going to serve. It hurt us. It hurt our deterrence. But the fact of the matter is that the Air Force is in full readiness. The Air Force has been operating extensively in the last few days, and even before what happened in Lebanon, we saw again and again the strikes in Syria. And the message to our enemies is very clear. We are ready, and we're able to carry out any mission needed to defend the state of Israel.
And Amir, speaking of a mission needed, Israel has blamed Hamas for the barrage of rockets that came both from Lebanon and the Gaza Strip. Do you imagine Israel being forced to go into another operation with Hamas in the Gaza Strip in order to deter further attacks from Hamas?
I think that, we're concentrating on Hamas, but everything that we're experiencing is orchestrated by Iran. Hamas is an Iranian militia, so is Hezbollah, and they're all coordinated. Hamas cannot operate in Lebanon without Hezbollah's consent or Iranian consent. The buildup of force they are doing in Lebanon is done with coordination with Hezbollah and Iran. So yes, the direct responsibility of the shooting is the Hamas, but the big picture is much more complicated than that. The defense establishment talks a lot about the convergence of the different fronts, and it's converted for a simple reason. It's all done by Iran. So it's one effort in different areas that Iran is doing, and this is something we need to address. I don't see at present a large-scale operation in Gaza, but as I said before, some of the leaders need to pay the price.
Amir, Avivi, thank you very much for your insight tonight.